The evening began with the promise of light-hearted joy, laughter shared in inside jokes, playful teasing, and the comfort of being surrounded by people I trusted. It was one of those nights where walls came down easily, because you were in the company of those who felt like home. We had gathered at my best friend's snug little apartment, just 4 of us in total. The lights were dim, mellow music drifted softly from the speakers, and the scent of greasy pizza boxes mixed with the cheap tang of red wine that lingered in the air. He sat beside me on the couch, close enough that his arm rested lazily behind my shoulders. His grin was loose, his eyes glowing with the warmth of familiarity. After more than a year together, I believed we'd stripped away nearly every mystery between us. Of course, I had kept certain fragments of my past tucked away, not out of deceit, but because some stories, I thought, were better left unspoken. That night would prove me wrong. The suggestion to play truth or dare didn't even come from me. My best friend, nostalgic for the recklessness of our teenage years, tossed it into the air like a spark. The idea caught quickly, laughter circling the room as everyone agreed before I could find a graceful excuse to bow out. Within moments, the game was already rolling, questions flying, dares carried out with silly enthusiasm. Most of it was harmless fun. Embarrassing stories. Silly challenges. Someone dared another to text something ridiculous to a crush. The wine softened everyone's edges, filling the space with that tipsy warmth where reality feels hazy but safe. And then the turn came. Someone dared him to ask me a truth. He leaned in, eyes dancing with mischief yet sharpened by curiosity, as though we had slipped into a private world. With a playful tone that carried a weight far heavier than the moment suggested, he asked, "What's the riskiest thing you've ever done with someone before me?" My heart froze. Inside, 2 voices battled. One urged me to laugh it off, offer some vague, harmless reply, and keep the game moving. The other, loosened by the wine, the mood, and my own stubborn desire to live by the honesty we had always promised each other, pushed me to give the real answer. So I told him. I described a reckless night years earlier with an ex, a wild moment so out of character for me that no one in that room would have ever guessed it. I offered just enough detail to make it vivid. And in an instant, the air shifted. His grin slipped away. The arm behind me retreated. He said nothing at first, only blinked, trying to process my words. My friends tried to smooth things over with nervous jokes, but the lightness of the evening had already dissolved. The room felt colder, heavier. I could see in his expression that his thoughts had left the present and were replaying the story I had just confessed, again and again. The game fizzled soon after. We excused ourselves with half-hearted reasons, and the walk back to his apartment dragged in silence. The only sound was the faint hum of passing cars and the pounding of my own pulse. Inside, he didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He simply looked at me like I was no longer the woman he knew. When he finally spoke, his question cut deep. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" I explained that it didn't matter anymore, that it was a closed chapter from long before we met. I reminded him we both had pasts, and I had never judged his. But he shook his head. It wasn't about blame, he said. It was about the image of me he had built in his mind, an image I had just shattered without meaning to. In the days that followed, the change was undeniable. The little touches disappeared, the way he used to lace his fingers through mine, the casual kisses in the kitchen, the look in his eyes that once made me feel like I was his anchor. He wasn't cruel, but he wasn't entirely there anymore. A wall had risen between us, invisible but impossible to break. I tried to reach him. I apologized even though I knew I hadn't betrayed him. I reminded him of our laughter, our trust, the love that had carried us this far. But every time, his gaze drifted somewhere I couldn't follow. Our final conversation was strangely quiet, almost gentle. He told me he still loved me, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't push away the image my confession had planted in his head. He couldn't unhear it. Then came the words that ended us. "I can't stay with you if every time I look at you, I see him." And that was it. Not because of lies, not because of betrayal in the present, but because of a truth from years ago that I should have kept locked away. When I left that night, I didn't feel anger or regret, only a hollow ache at how fragile love can be. How sometimes, it isn't secrets that destroy us, but truths we think we're strong enough to hear until they're finally spoken aloud.